If a person is, say, an emergency room nurse and a person comes in that has sustained some type of life-threatening injury and happens to be wearing a Charlie Kirk shirt, you already said that you think that this person doesn't deserve to live. So are you going to let that person slip through the cracks?
There's free speech and then there's hate speech.
Hate speech is definitely covered by free speech. That's first off.
And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie.
Charlie Kirk himself at a point said, hate speech does not exist legally in America. There's ugly speech, there's gross speech, there's evil speech, and all of it is protected by the First Amendment. Keep America free. And on that, I'm 100% with Charlie.
In our society.
Do you see more law enforcement going after these groups who are using hate speech and putting cuffs on people so we show them that some action is better than no action?
We will absolutely target you, go after you if you are targeting anyone with hate speech, anything, and that's across the aisle.
Pam Bondi, in my opinion, is an idiot. There are several things that I don't agree with her on. So while some people will be like, you're part of the MAGA cult. All right, well, if I were part of a cult, I wouldn't say that for sure. But even though Pam Bondi is wrong, I respect what her position is within the government. So I realize that she's a buffoon that we're going to have to talk to and make sure that she knows where we're at as citizens on her stance as far as that goes. But then when it comes to people being like, Ty, with people losing their jobs or getting kicked out of college, aren't you worried at all about free speech? No, because that's something completely different. And I don't know where people got this idea that colleges are this bastion of free speech. Let me tell you, as a person that's performed at a couple of colleges, and I do mean a couple of colleges, because I won't be welcomed back at most. Free speech has never been a thing at colleges. Like, there's this idiot, Texas State is where he just got kicked out of. And we'll get into it in my full thoughts, but for now, watch this video because this idiot decided to do this, not once, but twice on the same video. Check it out.
He's not real. He's not real. He's not real. Oh my God. Everybody has not because of my name is Charlie Kirk. That's too much. Oh, buddy. You're gonna get expelled, dude.
I lied. He did it 3 times. So it wasn't good enough the first 2 times when he did it in the crowd. He had to go up where they're clearly trying to have their vigil and does it again, and this time falls out. So now you're expelled from Texas State University, because what happened was this pretty big creator on X saw it, called the Texas One, and they posted, this was at Texas State, a Charlie Kirk memorial event hosted by local TPUSA chapter. Student imitates Charlie Kirk's death and mocks him, goes up to statue where TPUSA members are and imitates his death again and spits near them. Also uses a vape/weed pen near the end of the video, which is against campus policy. And so Governor Greg Abbott saw that, and Greg Abbott said, hey, Texas State, this conduct is not accepted at our schools. Expel this student immediately. Mocking assassination must have consequences. And when it comes to this, Blair White just tweeted something that for me really does sum it up better than anything else I've seen. No one is requiring you to mourn Charlie Kirk. They're asking you not to be a satanic piece of shit who celebrates brutal murder. The bar could not be lower, and it's still too high for millions of you. Sick. I have nothing to add to that, Your Honor. And I guess I just don't really understand what's to mock or what's to make fun of. And I saw a video of a pastor that was talking about how disrespectful Charlie Kirk had been and how divisive Charlie Kirk has been. And I'm kind of tired of hearing people talk about how divisive Charlie Kirk has been, because I don't really know how he could divide anybody if they didn't already want to be divided or if they weren't already divided. Because I personally have friends that are on the left, and I didn't feel at all divided from them when Charlie Kirk would talk about the things that he would talk about. And I don't think any of them felt divided from me during those times either. I think it really was a thing where a lot of us understood that different people are going to have different viewpoints, and there's nothing wrong with that. And that doesn't make people hateful, and it doesn't make people divisive. It just means that people have a different viewpoint, and people should be able to express that. So while we're talking about freedom of speech, and freedom of speech is what we're all supposedly so dependent on, then why is it certain people's speech is more important than others, and certain people's speech is deemed dangerous and divisive, while other people's speech, even if others see theirs as dangerous and divisive, is completely acceptable and we're all supposed to live with it? Like what we've been having to put up with when it comes to LGBT and gender ideology and a lot of the stuff that a lot of us have been saying that we don't necessarily get down with, but that we're supposed to just accept. That's not divisive at all. Nobody ever refers to that as divisive. That unites us, even though even a lot of us from within the community feel that that's divisive. But we're told that that is actually inclusive speech and that we're supposed to put up with that no matter how we may personally feel about it. So are we really talking about freedom of speech here that we're worried about? Or is it just the speech that you like that we're worried about? And that goes for both sides, and that's something that both sides should really think about. But what I will say when it comes to my point about colleges, for anybody that's like, well, colleges have always been bastions of free speech. For who exactly? Because what I was saying is I performed at a few colleges, and they always have a bunch of things that you're not allowed to say. Even to do like a submission to perform for multiple colleges, there's actually an organization that handles that called NACA. And there's a second one. I can't remember the name of the acronym for the other one. But there's NACA and there's another one. And both of them will let you know. In order to submit, you have to submit something that's not only clean, but where you're also being politically correct. And by politically correct, I mean respecting the feelings of the left. That's what colleges have always been, all about protecting the feelings of the left. So what's happening now and what Greg Abbott is advocating for has been what's been going on for people on the right all along. And I will be honest when I say that it bothers me that nobody on the left was ever worried about freedom of speech when Jordan Peterson wasn't able to speak at certain colleges.
Shut you down! Shut you down! Take the article on precursors to genocide.
When Milo Yiannopoulos, whatever you guys think about him now, maybe one day I'll do a video on it, but I just don't want to get into it right now. But when they were burning down the school over that, or setting things on fire, I should say, to be more accurate.
UC Berkeley, a significant cleanup in store this morning after protests over conservative speaker turned violent, and protesters even took their cause to the city's streets. KPIX5's Ann Makovic is live in Berkeley with the very latest. Ann?
Let's take a look at some of this protest last night that really started coming to a head about 6 p.m. in the middle of UC Berkeley Sproul Plaza. Protesters setting off fireworks, some of them aimed directly at university police, holding their ground. The crowd of about 1,500 had gathered in advance of the 7 o'clock event featuring ultra-conservative speaker and author and Breitbart editor Milo Yiannopoulos.
Nobody was talking about Milo's freedom of speech when Riley Gaines was being held hostage at a particular school. I think it was San Francisco that she was at.
Kind of coming in from both directions of the hallway. And so because there was no clear exit out of this hallway, we were kind of forced into a side room, another classroom, office room, where we essentially had to lock ourselves in for 3 hours. 3 hours of which there was chanting and screaming and yelling, vulgar and violent things, just really awful things that both myself and the officers. And we sat there for 3 hours, barricaded in the room.
But just recently she went back and somebody ended up getting removed finally during a speech that she was invited to do, I believe by TPUSA. That one was as well. So when you say that colleges have always been known for free speech, no, they haven't. Not at all. And then when it comes to working for people, if you're saying some stuff that your boss doesn't want to stand behind and doesn't want to get Yelp review bombed over, then yeah, of course you're going to get fired, because almost everybody is representing in some way the place that they work for. And yeah, it's unfortunate that everything you sign on to now almost requires all of your personal information. So there's almost no way around that. I mean, I guess maybe if a person completely doesn't have a LinkedIn, but I've seen people get doxxed in ways that are so clever that nobody would ever think about. And that's something that maybe needs to be addressed in some way, but I'm still not sure. How about just not saying and doing things that you know are going to get you in trouble if you know that you represent a particular company or a particular organization, or if you really care about what it is you do for a living? Why not just watch yourself, since clearly you're a representative of that? What's up, everybody? Ty Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. Okay, so I want to talk about this situation because it all covers free speech, and a lot of people are always like, hey, Ty, aren't you worried about free speech when it comes to blah, 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 blah? And no, I'm not. Because we've never had free speech. For a lot of us, there hasn't been free speech for a long time when it comes to a lot of situations. Even on social media, I've been shadow banned on almost every platform, except for this one. Thank you very much, YouTube. But I've been shadow banned on every platform. There was a point where I had over 20,000 followers on Facebook, back when Facebook was hot. And then Facebook decided that I guess I was a kind of voice that didn't really need to be heard from. And so they just started unsubscribing people from me. And it was like a mass situation. So now that other people are going through it, to me, that's about equality. We're all being treated the same now. If you say something that people don't like, whether you're on the left or the right, then they're going to throttle your reach, or there's going to be a consequence. And it's the left that always like to say that freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom of consequences. Well, now that you're the ones dealing with consequences, suddenly you don't feel that way. Suddenly now we're all about free speech. I personally feel like everybody should be able to say what they want to say on their personal time. When it comes to company time, that is something different. When it comes to at school, that is also something different, at least in my opinion. But when it comes to when you're on your personal time, you're not in the clock in any way, I do feel like you should speak the way that you feel, because that's the way that you genuinely get to know people. That's the way you genuinely get to know people's opinions and the way that they feel about not only things, but also you and maybe the group that you belong to. And maybe that's how you decide if you think a person is going to be a good match for being a friend for you or not. Or if you want to pursue a friendship with that person, then you at least know where you're starting with them or what you're dealing with going in. That's the way I feel about it. And you don't always have to understand people, and you don't always have to agree with people 100%. I find that a lot of times I'll agree with somebody if I just wait for them to say whatever it is they want to say past the point where I get triggered, because there will always be a point when I'm listening to people, because for the most part, I don't really talk a lot when I get to know new people. I let them talk and I completely get to know them, and I'll listen to them like I have no opinions on anything. I'll just be blank slate, no real interaction outside of a, yeah, cool, wow, that's crazy. But besides encouraging them so that they know that I'm there, I'll just listen if I want to get to know them. And there will always come a point where they trigger me. And I find if I keep my mouth shut through that trigger, usually right past that, I'll find where I can get along with them and what I definitely do agree with them on. And sometimes it's important for that other part to happen so that I know that about them and I know their thinking. And then it's like, okay, well, at least I have a very honest idea of the way that this person thinks. So I think that that's the best way for us to have a productive society. That's the best way for us to make genuine friendships and relationships with each other. That's the way for us to really get to know each other and see what we need to work on, what we need to work out, and what we can actually live with. And what actually really is hate speech. What really is our line. By the way, like, comment, and subscribe. So I wish we all had that. But since we're not all going to have that, then we should all have the same amount of limitations. Because what's good for the goose is good for the gander. You can't give it to one side and not have the other side have that as well. So if there's going to be consequences when people say certain things that people don't like that are coming from a right-leaning perspective, then when people come from a left-leaning perspective and say something that people don't like on the right, then yeah, it should be basically the same consequence. And if that's how we arrive at equality, then that's how we arrive at equality. But like I said, I honestly do feel like the best way would just be to let everybody say what it is they want to say. But when it comes to these particular situations, I don't think it's really about saying what you want to say. It's about what the college will and won't put up with. And it's also about fostering a particular type of thinking. And also, when you think about it, if a person is really advocating for murder for any particular reason, then maybe that person might be unhinged enough that they might one day do something stupid. So maybe you just decide having that person around is a liability. When it comes to a person working in the medical profession, if a person is, say, an emergency room nurse and a person comes in that has sustained some type of life-threatening injury and happens to be wearing a Charlie Kirk shirt or a Donald Trump shirt, you already said that you think that this person doesn't deserve to live, that has the exact same views, or you would assume has the exact same views as the person that's wearing this particular t-shirt that represents that person. So are you going to let that person slip through the cracks because you don't agree with them and you think you're doing the world some sort of service? And that's not far-fetched to me to have that type of thinking. If you're an educator, are you going to be teaching the children hate because clearly you have a lot of hate in your heart? I don't know about anybody else, but that's not what I think that children go to school for, is to learn hate from either side of the aisle. So is that what you're going to do? And so I think all of these things have to be taken into account. Also, if you're like this young person that really just did a stupid thing over and over, like it wasn't good enough that you did it once, twice, then you had to do it a third time, get in front of everybody. Like you're trying to be a problem is what you're trying to do. You're trying to be disrespectful. You're trying to provoke a reaction. So if the school doesn't want you trying to provoke those reactions, or if the school knows that you're the type of person that when a speaker comes in that you're not going to like or that you don't agree with, you're going to be likely to maybe set something on fire or turn it into a violent physical situation, then yeah, I think they should get rid of you, because that's not what that's about. Like if there's supposed to be a free exchange of ideas and people are supposed to be able to express themselves in college, then let it be that, if that's what it's supposed to be. Because for too long, the left has been running it when it comes to that kind of stuff. And maybe this is the kind of thing that needs to happen en masse for people on the left to really understand that you should let them do and say what they want to do, just like you should be able to do and say what you want to do. And it really shouldn't be either side running it when it comes to those kinds of things. But for now, while you clearly have trouble understanding that, and you think that any celebration that we on the right have, or even any time we show any kind of reverence or mourning for a person from the right, that you think that that's something that you have to bust up, you think that that's something that you have to turn into a riot situation or a protest, then it's not fair, because you're stifling the other side's speech. So maybe yours does need to be stifled for a little while so that you understand that that shouldn't happen on either side. And maybe everybody should think about this when you're seeing the local gangbangers in your neighborhood, which is something I've seen in areas that I've lived in before. But when people are setting up vigils for the local gang members or memorial spots for the local gang members, and everybody stays away from those and respects those, and I would say that the local gangbangers do more damage in those neighborhoods than Charlie Kirk ever could. So while people are talking about how dangerous Charlie Kirk's speech was when it came to minorities, well, has Charlie Kirk been more dangerous to minority communities than actual gangbangers? And when I say this, people will say that I'm being racist. Well, how could I be being racist when most of the neighborhoods I've lived in have been Latino neighborhoods? So the gangbangers I'm talking about are Latino gangbangers. But while we're on the topic, Black and Latino gangbangers both do more damage to their own communities and kill more people in their own communities than Charlie Kirk's speech ever has. But why wouldn't you laugh at or mock any of them? Oh, that's because it's easy to hate somebody like Charlie Kirk. It's easy to hate somebody that represents a problem that you can never fix. But the problem that you can fix and the problem that you live with every day, nobody wants to do anything about that, because that would require taking actual action and not just being some asshole in a crowd that's getting recorded and now has been expelled from school, and good luck finding your way to another one. And that's where I'm at on it. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. As always, thank you for watching. This has been Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.